Hello folks, welcome back to the channel for a very different video. And as much as I'm actually outside of the studio today, we got invited by Royal Enfield to come and test ride the brand new Himalayan Scram 411. This builds on their very popular platform of the Himalayan, and it taps into a very popular market of adventure bikes. Obviously, it's a smaller capacity adventure bike. Now, they did tell me to come dressed appropriately. Sadly, I don't get to do a lot of this kind of riding, so I didn't have a lot of stuff for myself, but I work somewhere where it is all readily available. So let me give you my thoughts and impressions of the Scram 411 and a bit of a gear guide as well. So the Scram 411 is an adaptation on the Himalayan, so it shares a lot of the same componentry. If you're familiar with that bike, you will be familiar with this one. The influence really for this is they noticed a lot of people were modifying their Himalayan motorcycles and making them look a little bit more like a scrambler, so they thought they would tap into that as well. And I have to say, it has paid off. One of the biggest differences you'll find with this motorcycle though is the 19-inch front wheel, which drops that front end and gives you a lot more feel on the front and with the steering. I will fully admit I've ridden more exciting motorcycles, but I've really enjoyed my day out on this bike. It's not got an awful lot of power to play with. It's only got 24 brake horsepower as the Himalayan does, so you can pretty much just full throttle it everywhere. But I actually quite like the fact that you ride this thing, or you can, at 100% all of the time. The quickest and easiest way to sum up this motorcycle, not my words, someone else's here actually, was that it is dreamy to ride. It has been a great day for us, so I'm a little bit biased on that front, but honestly, it just wafts along. And as long as you keep momentum, keep pace, it doesn't really matter that it is a little bit lacking in power. It doesn't matter that the brakes aren't that sharp, and it doesn't matter that the steering isn't that sharp either. You forget about all of that and you just enjoy the ride. We've ridden it through country roads, we've ridden it on B roads, faster roads, we've done some city, commuting, urban stuff, and it works just as well in either environment. And that's really what they pitched it at. They wanted to make sure that it was versatile, and that really shines through. If you think about the market that this is aimed at, you can use this in a city setting. It is an urban adventure motorcycle, and on the weekends you can take it out and go and do some green laning, you can go and do some faster B roads. It really depends on what you want to do, but it is a massively versatile platform and very comfortable as well. Before I forget, that is one of the most comfortable seats I've sat in for a long while, and a very comfortable riding position. I have ridden the Interceptor. I love the 650 engine. I like the Interceptor motorcycle, and I would use that in a city setting, but I actually think I'd possibly prefer this one because of its taller, more commanding position. They also offer a host of different accessories for it, one of which is the tripper you can see there on the front, which gives you your sat nav and it gives you your instructions on the screen. Very basic, but it gives you all the information you need. It works really well. If you like that, but you don't own a Royal Enfield, we also have things like the BEELINE. I actually have a review of that. If you want to check that out, then feel free. It's a really sleek, simplified version of navigation. It also means you don't have to connect your phone to your bars and risk damaging it. The rest of the instrument cluster is very simple. There's not a lot of information on there. We'll tell you you've got ABS. Now, as I say, it's not the quickest to engage, which I actually quite like with this kind of bike. If you did take it off-road, you don't want it to be too sensitive on the rear, and it's not really. It would be nice though if you could turn that off. That's my only gripe with this bike, is that the ABS isn't switchable. It's a really cheeky, fun little bike to own, and the fact that it comes in just north of £4,000 is very impressive. And I think for a lot of the market, if you are a new rider and you want something that is unintimidating, great choice to look at. If you're looking for a second bike, maybe something to go green laning and not really worry about, it works great for those functions as well. Or if you're just looking for a commuter, honestly, I could make a huge list of people this bike would appeal to. Now, for those who are attracted to this kind of bike and this kind of riding, you'll want to think about your riding gear as well, which is why we have our little gear guide of items cherry-picked today. Any of these things you can check out a more lengthy review on. I will drop links in the description. Now then, some of you will want to go for a full outfit straight away. Some of you will already have clothing that you feel comfortable wearing whilst you're riding on the street, and maybe you just want to upgrade piece by piece as you go. So in order of priority of things I would change or upgrade if I was going to go and take my bike for more off-road riding, I would start actually with my footwear. I would go for some nice, big, chunky, tall boots, like these STYLMARTIN matrices we have here. And the reason I would start there is that if you are going to go off-road, there is a decent chance at some point you're going to have to put your foot down. You may even fall off your bike at low speed. So it is a good idea to get some tall boots with some decent ankle reinforcement and protection. You then also have some form of solid reinforcement along the sides of your leg and crucially at your shin. You've got these buckles which ratchet into place really simply. You've got reinforcement across your toe there for the gear shifter. You've also got the option of sticking on these toe plates, these metal plates at the front there. And you might want to consider that, and when I say consider it, as in consider whether you need it or not, because if you're walking around off the bike more, you will feel that you have less grip at your toe, obviously because it's a metal plate. So if you don't need to put that on, I wouldn't necessarily, but if you like the look of it, obviously go for it. They are of course also waterproof. That is going to be useful because you can't always rely on the conditions. That's useful whether you're riding on the road or off-road, but they are fully waterproof, and I can attest to that. I have put these through the paces. They've got a really nice tough leather on the outside that is aged effect, but it won't take you long to age them yourself. And I just really like the fact that they've got that retro style and look to them. So you get all that function, but they still look good. Next on my list of priorities are getting some decent, trustworthy gloves with really good palm protection. So you'll want scaphoid protection because similarly to the boots, you may well come off and you may have to put your hand down. There's a decent chance of that if you are riding off-road, even if it's at low speeds. So you'll want something for the impact protection. You can't get much better than the dedicated scaphoid protection that you'll find with KNOX's gloves. They're also really breathable, which on our day in particular was useful because it was a warm day, obviously. We did luck out, but that is useful for off-road. Anyway, you are likely to get warm as you're riding. They've got really decent knuckle protection as well, and you don't necessarily have to go for these. Honourable mentions, and we did consider something from REVIT. They've got loads of different styles to go through. Same as these, they've got some softer armour on your knuckles so you're not restricted when you're closing your hand around the bars, and they've still got decent scaphoid protection. Things like the REVIT Mangrove or the REVIT Sand are gloves that I've tried in the past and they work really well in either setting. My next focus would be the helmet I was choosing to go off-road with. We've gone with the BYCITY The Rock helmet, as you can see here, with this yellow peak attached, and I have used road-going helmets for off-roading and they just don't work quite as well as a dedicated motocross style of helmet. This does work well in a city setting and it's nice and open, nice and free, but when you get off-road it really comes into its own for the reason that it's got that big opening on the front. You can obviously attach goggles to this and that makes your day a lot more comfortable. Trust me, they don't mist up the same as a visor that you'll find on a road-going helmet. They don't catch flies the same either, which is much, much better. So of course you've got the goggles on there. We've gone with the 100% BARSTOW goggles in Telluride, I believe is the color. It just matches this helmet nicely. And I love those goggles. They're probably my favorite. You've got loads of different colors and styles to choose. So you can always find a style that matches your helmet, and they've got a really wide field of view. They're very big goggles. That's part of the reason we went with this helmet as well, because it has a bigger opening on the front. One of the things we really like about the BYCITY is its universal fit. Not all helmets are made or sized equally, and sometimes you will find they've got a particular kind of shape that just doesn't work with some people's heads. We've tried this on with everyone in the office, and pretty much everyone in the office can find a size that fits them comfortably. You've also got these snaps on the front so you can attach a peak if you're going to be doing motorway miles. Maybe take that off because of course it will catch the breeze, but when you start doing the lower speed stuff, you'll want that on there, especially on a sunny day, to block out the sun if you want to. You don't have to go for this color necessarily. I was very averse to sticking a yellow peak on it, didn't feel like it needed it. But then I got there on the day and they gave me a bike with yellow on it as well. So sometimes things just work out. Those would be my first priorities then. The rest of the gear, I wouldn't really mind which order I buy them in, but obviously they are slightly more practical for this style of riding. I'd probably start with the trousers, just because, again, you're likely to come off the bike if you are going to go off-road, and you might well touch your knees and hips down. So you'll want trousers with decent armour. We went with the Fuel MARSHAL trousers, new for us. They look really nice in this colourway. Again, wasn't really sure before I went out there, but I've seen the photos. they looked good. They are AAA approved, nice and safe, and they also come with level 2 armor. It's a new one on me in terms of brand, but it is Flying Bats, I believe it is. It is level 2. One of the big benefits from that is quite how wide or extensive that padding is, especially on the knees. It means it's much less fiddly to get it in the right spot. It's also got an opening on the outside of the trousers to get that armor in or out, which makes it much easier to do. It is a thicker fabric, but it's not uncomfortable to wear. I think it was around 22 degrees on the day, and I wasn't uncomfortably hot in these at all. The fact that they're a little bit thicker actually just made me feel a bit more confident of their strength. And then of course you will need a jacket, so we have the Merlin Drifter. One of my new favorite jackets, no word of a lie, really fond of this. It just worked really well for the day. They make it using sustainable practices, which is really good to know, gives you some peace of mind. It's got loads and loads of vents on it, so lots of airflow can go through there. It's also waterproof. If you do up those vents, it will be fully waterproof, which is useful. You never know what kind of weather conditions you're going to get. Even with those vents done up, and I didn't really open them too much on the day at all, it's a lightweight fabric, so that's still comfortable on. And you've got loads of pockets across it, plenty of storage, which for me on the day, carrying a lot of equipment, was useful. The other thing I would want to focus on for my off-road gear, again, is armor, impact protection. If you are going to come off, you've got level 1 armor included in your elbows, your shoulders, and your back. That's all included at the price, and they also have pockets for chest armor that again is really useful. If you hit an errant bump and you end up chest bumping the handlebars, then you'll want some protection there as well. Lastly, you might want to bring stuff with you, so having some form of luggage is definitely useful. Let me get rid of these boots so I can explain the REVIT KRIEGA collaboration. This is the BARREN backpack, and this does look like a bag you would want to take off-road. You are correct in thinking so, and from my experience of it, it's so comfortable to wear. I had loads of equipment with me, camera equipment. It's not the lightest of stuff to bring with you, and it was all comfortably stored on my back in this backpack. That is thanks to the harness on the front. You've got their air mesh back as well, that's supported, so it holds that weight well. The straps, I would say actually, on first getting this bag, were a little bit fiddly to set up, but once you've got them in the exact right position, you never need to readjust that. I've got other bags that are quicker to adjust, but I have to keep adjusting them. This holds itself in the right place every time. The clasp on the front is really easy to operate, even whilst wearing gloves, and then you've got this waist strap to also hold its weight slightly better. It's an 18-litre backpack. This zip pocket isn't waterproof, and it's the larger of the two. You've also got this roll top pocket on the front, which is fully waterproof. The other thing that I wasn't sure if I'd use, but actually came in quite handy, was this Hyperlon net on the front. If you're out riding, you get stuff wet and you want it to dry, you could stick it in there, or at least that's partially what it's designed for, because it will get more airflow through and will help it dry out as you're riding. But for me, it worked really well carrying the tripod. It's just a handy extra pocket, just to put some extra stuff in there. You could also hook things to it if you needed to. Our thanks to Royal Enfield for their hospitality and inviting us to ride the Scram 411. Great fun bike, definitely worth looking at if you're in the market. For all of the clothing that I've listed here, I will drop links in the description. There are more in-depth reviews on each individual item if you want to check them out. Let us know what you think in the comments section down below, and I'll see you very soon for more of the world's finest riding gear. Bye-bye.